forgot to record. If you watch this recording, you're going to miss the first little bit. Sorry. So if this is what x to the fourth times x squared is, how many x's are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's x times itself 6 times, okay? So if ever you get stuck on this, you could always lay it out like that. I don't want you to have to do that every time, but if you're like, shoot, do I multiply them or do I add them? Just think about what it means. It means x times itself 4 times x times itself twice. How many are there? There's 6 there, so that's x to the 6th power, okay? So what would this one be? A to the 4th times a to the 5th, because this is technically, if there's no number there, it's technically a 1, right? So this would be a to the 4 plus 1, which is going to be a to the 5th. So what's 19? W to the 14th power. So you're adding your exponents together, okay? But then they throw coefficients in. What's a coefficient? The number that comes in front of the variable. Okay, so when there's coefficients, now we're multiplying, and that's what they're telling us to do. That's what we're doing on that other stuff too, where we're adding the exponents. We are multiplying. That's multiplying those things. But here's where you have to keep it straight, okay? A lot of people mix these up. You are going to multiply the numbers, right? The coefficients are going to be numbers. You're going to multiply the numbers, but you're going to simplify, which in this case is going to be adding the variables, the exponents for your variables, okay? So let's see how this goes. And if you want to rewrite the problem to see it differently, you totally can. You can separate it all out. What operation is happening between 3 and x to the 3rd? What? Multiplication. When you put a number next to a variable, you're multiplying. So this is the same as saying 3 times x to the 3rd times 7 times x squared. If you want to rearrange that, multiplication's commutative. You can multiply in any order you want. So I could right now say 3 times 7 and x to the 3rd times x squared. What's 3 times 7? 21. You are actually multiplying those two numbers. 3 times 7 is 21. What's x to the 3rd times x squared? What does your exponent become here? A 5. You're adding them together. That's x to the 3 plus 2, which is x to the 5th. Okay, so add your exponents, multiply your coefficients. So this is 21x to the 5th power. See if you can figure out 21. Negative 8m to the 7th times 2m to the 3rd. See what you get. Yes, you are more than welcome to use a calculator on this stuff. Chloe, what'd you get? Or did you not do it yet? Don't have it yet. David, what'd you get? Brooklyn? Don't lie to me. You guys have tried. Just tell me what you got. It's okay to be wrong.
Negative 16 to the 10th power.
So it's not negative 16th to the 10th power. It's negative 16m to the 10th power. Okay, John got that. Anybody else get that? Jason did? Aiden did? That's the right answer, right? You take your negative 8 times 2, which is negative 16, and then m to the 7th and m to the 3rd becomes m to the 10th. So you're adding your exponents, but you're multiplying your coefficients, okay? Okay, so number 22, you have 9x and 3x to the 7th. Let's multiply our coefficients first. What do you get? 9 times 3 is 27. Okay. X is x to the first power. So x times x to the 7th is x to the 8th. You're adding those together. So 27x to the 8th power. Okay. All right. We're going to take it up a notch. We're going to throw another variable in there. Sounds scary. It's not bad. Okay. What do we do with the coefficients? The -6 and the 4. We multiply them. So -6 times 4 is a -24. Tell your neighbor what exponent you're going to put on your A. Whisper it so not the whole class hears. Tell them. What are you going to put on A? I didn't hear anybody whisper. Okay, say it out loud. What are you going to put on A? This one is a to the first, right? AB squared is a to the first power. Then you have a to the third power. What are you doing with that 1 and 3? You are adding it together. So this would be a to the fourth power. B to what power? The 8th. 2 plus 6. Okay, so add these together. Add those together. B, oops, not 6. B to the 8th. What?
I thought we couldn't combine them since they're not the same. Oh, actually.
No, because this is the product rule. That's if you're adding. You can't combine when you're adding, right? But with the product rule, that's why I'm saying this is where it gets tricky, because yesterday we couldn't combine if they were different. Today we can multiply even though they're different. So you just got to keep that straight. Okay? Okay. Try number 27. I'm going to give you a minute to try that. See if you can work that out. This one's for sure the trickiest one we've done so far. So you're on the right track. Yeah. There would technically be a 1, which isn't going to change it. Because multiplying by 1 doesn't change it. But multiplying by -1 is going to make it opposite. I see lots of 8s. Can anyone tell me why 8 is not the right number? There's a negative. Okay, so think of it this way. The coefficient in front of mn is 1. What's the coefficient in front of mn to the 9th? -1. So you have this -1 here. So you're going 1 times 8 times -1. What is that? -8. Okay. So 1 times 8 times -1. That's your coefficients. So multiply all of those. The 1 isn't going to change anything. What do you get for your m's? So m times m squared times m. Not 5. M to what power here? This is the first. M to what power over here? The first. So what do you do with that 1, 2, and 1? You add them together. You add your exponents. So it's going to be m to the 4th power. So n to what power? This would be n to the 1st. This would be n to the 1st. This is n to the 9th. Not 12. Add them together. 1 plus 1 plus 9 is 11, right? So this becomes negative 8, m to the 4th, n to the 11th. Does that make sense? Okay, look at 29. Where are your coefficients? Or what are your coefficients? Aiden, what's one of your coefficients right now?
What number did you say again?
29. What's one coefficient?
P.
So that would be the variable. The coefficient, remember that's what comes in front of the variable. So 9 would be a coefficient. What's another coefficient? 5, okay? Technically, you could say everything else here has a coefficient of what? 1, okay? So those ones don't come into play. It's not going to change anything because when you multiply by 1, you get that same thing back, okay? So 9 times 5 is where we're going to start. What do you get there? 45, okay? Now look at your variables. So we have a P and we have a Q. So a P and a P squared. Those ones can be combined. You cannot combine a P with a Q, okay? But we can combine our P's. What does P become? P to the 3rd, because this is 1. So 1 plus 2 gives you P to the 3rd power. And then you have your Q's. So Q and Q to the 4th. What does that become? Q to the 5th, okay? So add your exponents, multiply your coefficients, okay? Three more. Look at 32. This one throws a fraction in. Don't let the fractions freak you out. You have a calculator sitting in front of you, hopefully, you should, that can help you out with this. What's the same thing as multiplying by 1/3? Dividing by 3, right? So you can think of this as you're just dividing by 3 if you're multiplying by 1/3. So take your coefficients, negative 24, positive 1/3. If I multiply those together, do you know how to plug that into your calculator as a fraction? Get your calculator out. You go negative 24, sorry. Make sure I'm pushing the right buttons that I'm telling you. Okay, so you would type in negative 24 and then the times button, and then you go 1, and then that ABC button, it's like right here, that's what's gonna make the fraction 1/3. So 1, that button, and then 3. What do you get? Negative 8. Okay, so 24 times 1/3 is a negative 8. Now look at your x's. We can combine the x's. X squared times x is what? Not 3x. X to the 3rd, right? We're going to add them together. So 2 plus 1 is x to the 3rd power. What's y times y? Y to what power? 2. Y to the 2nd power. So that's a 1 and a 1, and we are adding those together. So y to the 2nd. Okay. Okay. Are you ready for the real fancy now? This is going to combine what we did yesterday with what we just did today. So there's some multiplication and there's some addition, and you have to determine when can I do what. Okay? So let's take a look. 35, you have PEMDAS to follow. Okay. Inside of your parentheses, there's nothing to do. There's no addition or subtraction. That's all just multiplication. So they're numbers next to each other. There's nothing to simplify inside of our parentheses. Our exponents, we can't simplify because we don't know the value of x and we don't know the value of y. So it's not like we can take something to the 2nd power. So we're going to start with multiplication and division, which means we are not starting there. Okay, don't try to add things right now. We have to multiply and divide first, and then we can add and subtract. So basically what that means is simplify this piece and simplify that piece. Look at your left side right now. I guess that's this way for you. What do you get when you multiply these two monomials? 6x to the ninth, y what? Y to the fourth, okay? So notice what he did. 3 times 2, but then add your exponents, that's x to the ninth. Add your exponents, that's y to the fourth. Okay, so that one is simplified. Now do the next one. 5 times essentially a 1 is just going to be a 5. X to what power? 7 and 2 gets you 9, not 14, right? Don't multiply them, add them together. Y to what power? The fourth, okay? Then you can bring your plus down. Are we allowed to add these? Why? Because they have the same variables. These are like terms. You can only add if you have like terms. Brooklyn, that is not helpful for math. So you have 6x to the ninth, y to the fourth, plus 5x to the ninth, y to the fourth. What does that become? What's your coefficient going to be? Elijah, put it away. That's supposed to be up there. Go put it up there. What do you get? Your coefficients. It's not 30, which is what it was earlier today. It's 11. You're adding them together now. So you really have to pay attention to your operations. 6 plus 5 is 11. What do we do with the variables? What? We're not going to multiply. Remember what we said yesterday? If these are the same, it's like saying 6 apples plus 5 apples is 11 apples, right? What do you get? You leave it alone, okay? When you are adding with variables, you do not add the exponents together or multiply the exponents. You leave those exponents as you see them, okay? Think of it like 6 apples plus 5 apples is 11 apples. Keep those apples, apples, okay? It's a little fancy, right? Okay, last one, and then I'll let you try it on the homework. What's your first move? So there's multiplication. That's what your parentheses are implying, right? We're multiplying. There's also addition. What do you do first? Multiplication. So we're going to multiply these. That's going to get us -3 times 4 is a -12. What's a to the fourth times a? A to the fifth, right? You got to add them together. So that's a to the fifth. B to what power? This is like b to the first. So add those together, b to the seventh, okay? Then you can bring your plus down, and now we're going to multiply these. What's your coefficient going to be? -7. So this is -7. A to the fifth, add these together. B to the seventh, add these together. Do you have like terms?
Yes.
So if we're going to add these together, all you're adding are the coefficients. -12 plus -7. What is that? Not 19. -19. And then your variables stay. A to the fifth, B to the seventh, and you're done. Okay, so if you're adding with exponents, leave the exponents alone. If you're multiplying with exponents, add them. Isn't that weird? It's weird, right? That's where you got to keep it straight, though. That's the tricky part. Okay?